everybody. Relay here, bringing you the real talk. Before we dive into today's critical breakdown, if you're ready for more straight fire on gaming, smash that like button and subscribe for daily bangers. Now, let's get into it.
In 2021, Splitgate was a goddamn phenomenon. Halo meets Portal. Over 67,000 people playing at the same time on Steam alone. A genuine, out-of-nowhere indie darling that had the magic. Today, the original game is being shut down. Its sequel is such a catastrophic failure, it's been officially unlaunched. And the studio is bleeding staff. Let's be brutally clear about what this was. This wasn't bad luck, and it wasn't some unavoidable market shift. This was a conscious choice. A self-inflicted wound. This was a public execution. So today, we're not just reporting the news. We're opening an investigation to answer one simple question. Why did 1047 Games murder its own golden goose? The crime scene is a total mess. In July of 2025, the studio dropped a bombshell. Splitgate 2, their big, shiny sequel, was being pulled from release. Not delayed. Unlaunched. They're shoving it back into beta, admitting to the world that the game they just shipped was fundamentally broken and rushed. But here's where it gets so much worse. At the same damn time, they announced they're pulling the plug on the original Splitgate. The game people actually loved. Their excuse? High operational costs. So the loyal players who stuck with the original get absolutely nothing. To top it all off, the studio laid off 45 employees. A full-on strategic and financial meltdown. How in the hell does a studio with a certified hit, a game that captured the attention of the entire industry, end up in a dumpster fire this massive in just a few years? To understand the crime, you have to understand what was stolen. Let's rewind to 2021. Exhibit A, the original Splitgate. In a market flooded with soulless Call of Duty clones and tactical shooters, Splitgate was a breath of fresh air. The Halo meets Portal pitch wasn't just a gimmick, it was brilliant. It had that classic arena shooter feel, but the Portals added this insane high-skill ceiling layer of strategy that was incredible to watch and even better to play. And the numbers don't lie. Over 600,000 downloads in its first week. It peaked at over 67,000 concurrent players on Steam. That's not just a cute indie game, that's a genuine contender. It blew up on Twitch and YouTube organically, not because they paid some shill a mountain of cash, but because the game was just that damn fun. They had a hit, a real community-loved, growing hit. They had the golden goose, sitting right there, laying golden eggs. So what do you do when you have a winning formula? Well, if you're 1047 Games, you decide the formula is crap and throw it in the trash. This is the motive. The turning point was September 2022. They announced they were halting all new feature development on their massively popular game. They were effectively freezing their hit title in Carbonite. And for what? For the promise of something better. They were going to rebuild the whole thing from scratch as Splitgate 2 on Unreal Engine 5. It was going to be, in their corporate speak, revolutionary. This wasn't just ambition. This was a classic case of second system syndrome. It's a well-known trap in development where a team gets so obsessed with the perceived flaws of their first successful system that they decide to throw it all out and build a perfect mythical second version. But that mythical version almost never works out because you lose the chaotic, accidental magic that made the first one a hit. You trade a functioning, beloved product for a blueprint and a prayer. They looked at a product that was working, that people loved, that was making them money, and said, this isn't good enough. Instead of building on their success, iterating on it, and growing with their community, they chose to burn it all down for a high-risk, long-shot gamble on a complete do-over. It was their first and most catastrophic mistake. And now for the smoking gun, the botched sequel itself. When Splitgate 2 finally launched in June 2025, it wasn't a revolution. It was a disaster. The first piece of evidence? The player counts. The game struggled to even break 25,000 players at its peak. That's less than half of what the original pulled years earlier. The audience took one look and said, no thanks. The second piece of evidence? The community reaction. The forums and Reddit were a bloodbath. Fans complained the game was a rushed, buggy mess, that it had lost the magic and feel of the original. and of course, that it was packed with aggressive, expensive microtransactions. The official Splitgate subreddit wasn't just a discussion forum, it became a digital wake. Top posts weren't clips of slick Portal plays anymore. They were goddamn eulogies. Devs who don't care, detailing how the new physics felt floaty and soulless. You had memes of the "this is fine" dog sitting in a burning server room. You had thousands of comments echoing the same betrayal. They took our unique, high-skill game and turned it into another generic, cash-shop-first piece of garbage. They didn't just dislike the sequel. They felt like the studio had spit in their face and then charged them for the privilege. They didn't just fail to improve the formula, they actively made it worse. But the final, kill-shot piece of evidence was a completely self-inflicted wound. A moment of pure, weapons-grade cringe. At Summer Game Fest, the studio's CEO showed up wearing a "Make FPS Great Again" hat, a politically charged slogan slapped onto a hat to promote a video game. It was a PR nightmare that alienated a huge chunk of the potential audience and made the studio look arrogant and completely out of touch. It became a symbol for the entire project, a train wreck of bad decisions. Now here's where it gets really interesting. This kind of Hail Mary isn't entirely new. When a big online game faceplants this hard, there's a historical playbook for a comeback. They're clearly trying to pull a Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. That game was a legendary disaster at launch, so Square Enix took the unprecedented step of nuking it from orbit and relaunching it years later as a masterpiece. It's the ultimate redemption story, and it seems that's what 1047 is hoping for. But there is a massive, critical difference here. Square Enix had the resources of a titan, and more importantly, they didn't have a beloved working version of the game that they intentionally murdered to make way for the new one. Let's be real, Square Enix had the budget of a small nation and decades of fan trust to burn. They also communicated with their fans with a level of Japanese corporate humility that we just saw is completely absent from 1047's playbook. They apologized. They took responsibility. They didn't show up to E3 wearing a goddamn meme hat after firing their staff. 1047 isn't just trying to copy a miracle. They're trying to do it on hard mode with no money, no trust, and a self-inflicted PR gunshot wound. 1047 Games used a scorched earth tactic. They didn't just launch a bad sequel, they took the good original game hostage and then shot it in the head to try and force everyone onto the new, broken one. They burned their only bridge. They destroyed their own lifeboat. They're attempting this high-wire act with no safety net in the middle of what we call the live service great filter, a period where the market is so brutal that even good polished games are getting shut down in under a year. The arrogance is staggering. So, the verdict. Why did 1047 Games kill Splitgate? Because they were blinded by ambition and fundamentally misunderstood why their own game was successful. They didn't value the lightning in a bottle they had caught. They saw their passionate community and their unique, fun game not as a foundation to build on, but as a launch pad for some grand, revolutionary vision that nobody asked for. They traded a proven reality for a gimmicky dream. Now, they're in a desperate all-or-nothing gamble. History shows that a comeback like this is technically possible, but the choices they've made, especially killing the original game, have stacked the deck against them. The goodwill is gone. The community's trust is shattered when, or if, Splitgate 2 relaunches in 2026. It can't just be fixed. It can't just be good. It has to be a goddamn miracle to justify the path of destruction they left behind. And in this market, miracles are in short supply. If you made it this far, like the video and make sure you're subscribed to RelayHQ for more analysis that cuts through the corporate BS. Now, I want to know what you think. Is a comeback even possible for Splitgate, or is this the end of the line? Let us know in the comments.